Hi, I'm Buckley, and today we're at beautiful Lake Conjola, and what we're going to do is a bit of flathead fishing. We've got some fantastic scenery here, some fantastic structure, sandbanks, channels, drop-offs, and we're going to explore them today with lures. We've got soft plastic lures, hard-bodied lures, and I'll just go through how we're going to approach this flathead fishing on lures. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to try starting with these soft plastics, these double tail plastics, which work at a very, very slow rate. People tend to work these plastics much too fast. They work at a very, very slow speed. And these are jig head plastics. They've got a lead jig head, and they travel this way up, so the hook doesn't snag on leaves or branches. And the idea is to work them like live bait. Move them across the bottom, stop, move them across the bottom, stop, twitch, twitch, and then move them again. The good thing about plastics is they're soft, so when you actually get a strike, the flathead feels like it's a live fish, so it gives you that few nanoseconds longer to set the hook before the actual flathead rejects it and realizes it's actually an artificial, it's not a live bait. Here you can see the action of the double tails working across a sandy bottom. As you can see, I'm moving the lure very, very slowly with the occasional twitch. Then I let it rest for a while, then I twitch it again and then move it. And I'm not covering much area, but I'm covering it with a lot of activity from the lure. And that's the secret of lure fishing. It's got to look like a sick or injured fish. Once again, just to put more of the odds on my side, I've got another soft plastic here, but as you notice, it's a different color. So what I'm trying to do is explore all the avenues that's available to me. That one is in pink, this one is in orange. If this doesn't work, I'll try another lure change. You've got to keep actually working lures, and then changing lures and find out what actually is the flavor of the day. No use keeping the same lure on all day. Keep changing it till you find the right lure and the right color to suit the conditions. And here as well. As well as soft plastics, I've also got hard-bodied lures. This is a diving minnow. You notice by the size of the bib, it can get down a long way. So it actually dives down and then slowly floats back up. And then I actually dive down again into the water, deep down into the flathead layers, because flathead is a bottom-dwelling fish. And I've got to make sure my lure is down there with the flathead. There's no use being in the top surface layers. I've got to be down there where the flathead are. I've actually crushed all the barbs, so for ease of release, because all the flathead I'm going to catch are going to be released, and by crushing the barbs it leaves a lot less oral damage in the fish. You'll notice also that I've tied all my lures with a loop knot. There's no swivels at all in the line. It's a loop knot here, and this gives the lure full and free movement, so it can really strut its stuff. Manufacturers spend a lot of money putting wiggle into lures. And if I have swivels or snap swivels, it's going to dampen that action. So by doing this loop knot, it makes the lure really work its stuff and get right down, wiggling its tail off, enticing Mr. Flathead. What we've got here is a soft plastic lure, the very popular squidgy fashion. Once again, the hook rides on top, as you can see, so the lure travels this way. A nice soft rubber tail. And once again, you've got to remember, these rubber tails only work at very slow action. So we've got to keep it nice and slow. It's many, many colors. I'm going to start with this color because, as you can see, it sort of matches the sand. It's like a baitfish type color, but I've got plenty of different colors to try today. And if this doesn't work, I'll keep the same jig head to start with, the same lead head, but I'll change the body of the lure. By flicking this across the bottom, and it's a different action I'm going to use here to the plastics, because a prawn will actually sit for a while looking around and then flick across the bottom. So I've got to use the tip of the rod to make it flick, give it the prawn action. It then settles on the bottom again. I then give it the flick action, settle on the bottom again, and that's the action I'll be working with this prawn. It's got a double stinger hook. It's got a treble near the head and also a treble down near the tail. It's a very, very effective weapon when the prawns are running. As I said, probably when the prawns aren't running, I'd go back to soft plastics, but we're in the height of summer now, and this lake here is known for prawns, so this could be an effective attack weapon, the old artificial prawn. The rig I'm using here is a very, very light spin stick, and you notice it's beautifully balanced. I can use this all day. It's ergonomically designed. I'm going to be using it all day. I've probably got about 8 or 9 hours fishing ahead of me. We're in a flathead competition at the moment. And what I've got here, I've actually got this braid, this new super line. This is a great method of fishing because it puts me in direct contact with the lure. No stretch. I've got to make sure my drag settings are set to 1/3 of the breaking strain. This is 6 kilo line, so I've actually got to set it to 2 kilos of breaking strain. I'm using a mono leader, but not just any mono. I'm using that new fluorocarbon leader, and the beauty about this fluorocarbon leader, it totally disappears in water. So what you see is absolutely nothing. So all the fish sees is the lure going through the water. This has got a very, very low refractive index, and it actually vanishes underwater. So I'm actually increasing my stealth factor underwater. And this is a secret to lure fishing. We're fishing in very skinny water, very clear water, and this fluorocarbon should help me to achieve that stealth factor. One of the questions I'm frequently asked about using braid is that people spool up with braid, and next thing you know, the whole of the braid slips on the spool of the line. I do recommend before you put braid on that new super line is you put probably 8 or 9 meters of ordinary mono, and that gives the braid a grip on the spool and you don't get that spinning. And it also makes it a lot easier to spool up with the braid. Just a little tip to help you there. We're using the soft plastics, but I've got a secret weapon. If all else fails, we've got bait scent. Now I know this is not for the purists, but a little dab of bait scent on your lures can just turn a bad day into a very, very good day. So always have some bait scents because that adds another factor. We've got another sense. You see, we've got movement, we've got taste, we've got sight, and by adding bait scent, it gives smell. Just another sense. So we're getting everything working in our favor. Okay, I'm working the lure off this sandy flat now, and this plastic needs to be fished very soft, very slowly, as I said before. And I'm only using the reel handle to retrieve line. All the action is coming from the rod tip. I'm working the rod tip to try and give it that injured bait fish look. So a bit of flicking, taking a bit of slack, a bit more flicking. Don't forget the up and down as well. And then leave it there maybe for a couple of seconds because a fish will wait as it gets its breath back. I take in a bit of slack with the handle again, a bit of a flick, and a wait. And most important, as I come to the end of the cast, you do get a lot of follows from fish. And before I actually lift the lure back into the boat, just give it a couple of vertical jigs because sometimes the fish will take it then. If they're following the lure, you just need to just rev them up a bit more, and just a couple of vertical jigs just before you bring the lure back in the boat will often get you that fish. I'm fishing the incoming tide here. It's not my favorite tide. I'd rather fish an outgoing tide. And it's not a small tide. We've actually got about a 1.7, 1.8, so there's a fair bit of water movement. I do like to fish the low tide and the outgoing tide because there's a lot less water between fish, and it gives me more of a chance to get the fish congregated and get amongst them. But as I said, we're working this lake all day today, and it is a competition, so we've got to work it for at least 7 or 8 hours. The water's starting to come in at a fair bit, but the flathead are actually pointing upstream as the water comes in, the food comes in. So all the flathead will be pointing upstream, waiting for this for the food. And I've just got to make sure my lure imitates that food. So there's no use pulling lures upstream. I've actually got to make the lure go downstream into the fish. At the moment we're fishing this sandy area, but today we're going to do a lot of exploring. We're going to work some drop-offs, we're going to work the weedy areas. If we find a bit of timber, we're going to work the timber. Today's a day of exploring, and we're going to be very proactive today. The thing about lure fishing, it's a very proactive type fishing. So we just got to make sure we actually are making use of all this structure we've got around us, the weed beds, the rock walls, the drop-offs. So there'll be a lot of travelling today and a lot of casting to find fish. We've tried around here with soft plastics and also hard-bodied lures, but the fish, I think, are deep. It's very, very clear water, and the fish are getting very spooky. So we're going to have to target the deep water. And what I'm going to use is the larger soft plastics with a fairly heavy jig head, and find some deep water and start bouncing the plastic over that deep water from shallow into deep, and then I'll work it the other way from deep back into shallow and see if we can attract the fish then, because in the shallows it's very, very clear water. We haven't seen any flathead burst from their layers, which makes me think all the fish are deep. What I've done is had a look around on what people are doing, and most of the action is where the water drops off into deep. You just got to keep your eyes around, you know, be at one with your surroundings, find out what's happening out there, because it's most important to actually tailor your fishing to the conditions. If you keep hammering away at a system that's not working, like working the shallow water where there's no fish, you're going to end up with nothing. So we just got to vary our methods now, and I think most of the fish are actually gone right up the back of the lake. There's been no rain for a while, and most of the fish have gone up the back of the lake where it's better, fresher water. So we're going to try and target that. We're going to head up there and have a fish up there. Well, we gave it a really good workout yesterday. The water was too clear. We thrashed every single inch of water yesterday in search of fish. We found another lake system. The lake system we fished yesterday was clear water, sandy bottom. This lake system here has got mud, weed, a lot darker water. So we're going to try the same methods, because we know they work, in this lake here. So we're going to work the lake hard today. Once again, soft plastics, hard-bodied lures, a lot of structure, a lot of weed beds. We're going to investigate. We'll get a flathead today, I'm sure. This one. Oh, look at this lizard. Look at this one, mate. Look at this one. Want to get the net in him? Do you want to get the... give me the net and I'll net him this one. Well, we eventually got one. We had to cover a lot of territory to get the fish, but we tried something different now. What we did, we just tried a bit of trolling. We've got a narrow stretch of river now which concentrates the fish in, and by concentrating the fish we actually got one. So we had to just think outside the square, and we got ourselves a decent lizard, probably about 2-3 kilos. Just keeping it working with the rod tip, working the plastic in the shallows, and here we go. Here we go. Now this is a flatty, I'm sure. And what I did, I worked it really slowly to try and get that fish to happen. Yeah, and it's a good dusky. Yep, nice dusky. It just took that squidgy. It's coming in, and yeah, that's a good dusky. I just want to slip the net underneath that one. It's just got a bit of kick in it. Now that was on a squidgy, just working the structure. You see, we're in a very shallow place here, and he took it. Let's get the net under. There we go. And we got ourselves a nice dusky. Okay, I'm going to start fishing, okay? I'm just going to work the lure now. Just let a bit more line out. Got a lot darker water here, which is looking pretty good. So I'm just going to jig the lure across the bottom. Here we go, we've got a hit. We got ourselves a hit. Oh yes. Just got a little dusky on the end here. It's just come out the cloudy water. It's funny because we've been fishing clear water all the time, and we found this cloudy water, and it's starting to happen. We've got a nice run out tide here, and I've just got myself a fairly good dusky. I'll just get the net and see if we can get him in. Here we go. She's been pretty good. Oh yes. Good, excellent. It's very nice. That'll go probably a kilo and a half, maybe 2 kilos. Oh, that was hard work, but we eventually got one. That's great, that's great. I might try this passage again, just working it down. The thing we're doing, we're covering a lot of territory now. Instead of just actually casting, just anywhere, we've actually casting into some cloudy water, and it's worked for us. So obviously the clear water wasn't the thing, it's the cloudy water that's happening. Might give this a go again, see if we can get ourselves another one. I'll just let this one go now and let it, and off we go again. This is obviously a female. It's a nice big fish, but I'll just let him go because fishing to me is just a sport, and I just love to see someone else catch this fish. So we'll swim him around, let him go, and let someone else catch him. Just a beautiful, that's a beautiful dusky flathead, and hope someone else has as much fun as I do. Getting a bit of water through his gills, and I'm just starting to feel him kick again. And the way she goes, absolutely beautiful. What a beautiful fish. That was great. Let's see if we can do it again. Okay, we're back in the Narrows now, and we've got an outgoing tide, which is my favourite. So what I'm going to do is use hard-bodied lures. We've got about 1.5 meters of water here. I'm just going to troll back down with the hard-bodied lure. The hard-bodied lure will get down about 1.5 meters and just touch the bottom. Just do that inviting little skip across the bottom. I'm not going to use the engine. I'm actually going to make use of this outgoing tide as my trolling motor. And then we're going to take it down this narrow stretch of water here and see if we can pick up another dusky. The wind's got up now, but the good news, I got wind and tide, so it should give me a fairly good troll. Okay. The lure I'm using is a deep diver. You can tell it's a deep diver by the bib. This will get me down to probably 2 meters, 2.5 meters. It's a lime green color. We got dark water, so I'm going to try a nice bright color here. Trebles, both trebles. I've actually flattened the barbs of the trebles now for ease of release. Nice big bib, and you can see I've secured it with that Perfection loop or Harrison loop knot, so I can really make the lure strut its stuff. So I'm going to use the wind as a motor here as we troll back down this channel and see if we can pick ourselves up a nice dusky again.
1, 2, let's go.
No need to cast it, I'm just feeding it out. I've got that gel spun line so I can feel every quiver on the lure. And I'm now just tracking down the middle of this channel here. Take it out probably 8-9 meters behind the boat. It doesn't have to be too far. I'm sure the flathead get used to boat traffic in here. They've grown up with boat traffic. Click it over, just check my drag. And then instead of just sitting here and just holding the rod, I'm going to give that lure just that little bit more action. I'm just going to just tease it. And I can feel it bouncing along the bottom now. And just teasing that lure until I can feel I'm going to get a hit. I can feel it's wiggling its bum off down there. And I'm just going to work the lure with my rod tip just to give it a bit more action than the maker intended. We'll just straighten the boat up, make sure we hit the middle of that channel. Yeah, this is looking good. This is looking a good setup now. Well, it's just been absolutely superb, you know. We've just worked down the south coast the last few days, and 3-hour drive from Sydney. We've got this absolutely superb scenery here, a myriad of fishing places, and we've had an absolute ball. One thing about fishing is fishing isn't easy. It's a thing you've got to work at, and yeah, so we're just 3 hours drive from Sydney. We've got some absolutely pristine conditions here, beautiful south coast, a great part of the world to fish. And we've worked hard, you know, we've been stretched to try and catch fish, but we actually got some fish eventually because we tried a myriad of different things. It was absolutely hard work to start with, but we actually got some fish. Looking forward to doing it again. So until the next time, see you on the water. Bye now.